Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. Welcome to Thoughts and Coffee. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I am the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain. I'm also the host and founder of the Blended podcast, which is the newest conversation in diversity and inclusion. And I think that's about it for today. Or for at least who I am and what I'm doing. I am excited to be here with you today because my guest is the ever amazing Audrey Ross, and we've got a lot of really fun topics in supply chain that we're going to be talking about. But first, let's go over what is happening at Let's Talk Supply Chain this week. So, what is happening? We have our Woman in Supply Chain episode. And this week or this month, we are featuring Tara St. James. And she has an incredible story. I really, really loved doing this interview and talking to Tara because she's not only in fashion, she also talks about how supply chain and fashion come together. And then she's also all about sustainability as well, which goes really well with one of the topics that we're going to be talking about today, which is right up Audrey's alley in around fast fashion and sustainability. So if you didn't go and check that one out, go and check it out. It's obviously on the Let's Talk Supply Chain page. We've got the Woman in Supply Chain page. It's also on the podcast page. So go and check that out. It's also wherever you subscribe to the show. Next, we've got our upcoming events. So last Friday, we had episode 3 of Log Tech Live with Eric Johnson, and he had Angela from Shapiro on the show with him. And we got some really amazing feedback on that. So if you want to go and check it out, it is on our Let's Talk Supply Chain YouTube page. Go and check out that conversation. You are not going to regret it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Or it was a lot of fun. We've also got Coming in Hot, and we've got Topple coming up in the next couple of weeks as well, which is 2 more of our new live shows. And we've got even more that we're adding to the roster. Then we've got Procurement Foundry coming up in November. It's Thursday, November 18th. I'm going to be moderating a panel discussion, and we're going to be talking about the shaping the future of procurement. So go and register. We actually post this on our Let's Talk Supply Chain LinkedIn page every single Sunday night as to what events we have coming up. So go and check that out because all of the registration links are there. Actually, I can actually copy and put this into the comments as well so that you can go and check that out. And then, oh, where did that go? And then obviously we've got Manifest coming up in January. I heard some tidbits the other day because of the panel discussion that I was on. And they said that there's going to be a puppy bar at Manifest. They're also going to be closing out the conference with Ludacris. So if you don't have your tickets, go and check it out. I've just posted the link to that article or to that post so that you can go and check out those registration links. Plus, I wanted to share my caricature. So last Thursday with a bunch of professionals, I brought in a Zoom caricature artist, and I posted about this actually yesterday. Because we've been coming together weekly since April 2020, and this is the picture that Jason Wilkins, Art of Wilkins, drew for me last week. And I can't wait because we've got a couple of more pictures to come out, and then I'm going to show you that as well. I thought it was a little bit fun. I was wearing my Superman shirt at the time, and that's why we have that up there as well. All right, so we are going, what else is happening? Oh, I should probably let you guys know that I was named on the top 100 list for supply and demand chain, their Woman in Supply Chain list for 2021. Want to thank them so much for including me. It's such an honor. I mean, that list is just a list of powerhouse women. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. Super excited to be on that list. Plus, coming up on Thursday, I'm going to be on the Startup Canada podcast, and I'm going to be live with Blythe on Cyberly, which is part of FreightWaves, and that is happening live at 2 p.m. Eastern this Thursday as well. All right, without further ado, let's bring up Audrey. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good, good. I'm just getting my personal LinkedIn sorted out over here. So why don't you
I
tell
can introduce
everybody who you
myself.
are?
Yeah. So I'm Audrey Ross. I'm here in Toronto, Canada. It's very rainy today in Toronto, and
It
it's getting a
is,
bit
right?
cooler.
I
Yeah.
know. I
Yeah.
know.
Although it looks like it'll warm up next week. So it's an interesting October weather-wise because sometimes it gets kind of chilly, and lately it's been really warm. So that's fun for us. What do I do? I'm in-house. I'm a logistics and customs specialist at Orchard Custom Beauty. So I help with the customs and logistics, international trade. Right now, I'm getting, as of this week, I get a little bit of a break from Golden Week. So I've got about half of the time zones I deal with are off this week. So that just leaves, the other
I thought it was
14
last
or
week.
whatever.
Golden
No,
Week is
it
this week?
started. It sort of started last week. It starts so that they're off for the October 1st to October sort of 7th.
Okay.
But like I was trying to get stuff, like, oh, did we get this handed over on like the 29th, 30th? And it's like no one's answering. So
We've got some amazing people with us today, and
yeah,
good morning, everyone. Kadar Cheryl says, Startup Canada, great program. They definitely are. And Jeff
definitely
wants us
is.
to
Yeah.
send over some rain to
In
Northern
North
California.
County.
If we could, we would. I mean,
I
we'll
could
we'll
trust
we'll
me.
talk about it. We'll get together and maybe do a rain dance. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then over on my personal LinkedIn page, Joanna says, looking
Hmm.
forward to Procurement Foundry. Awesome. Me too, because they always put on a great event. And Jonathan says, good morning. So good morning to all of you guys as well. What are we talking about? What's the first thing that we're talking about? We are talking about,
Oh,
this poll that we did
yeah.
last week. So this poll was kind of crazy. It kind of took on a mind of its own. So
Yeah.
you guys know every Wednesday morning on Let's Talk Supply Chain, as well as on my personal LinkedIn, we either do a poll or we ask a question to the community. I chose this one because, like I said, it kind of went crazy on us, which I thought was really cool. We reached almost 70,000 people with this post, and it was really about how long is your morning commute.
Yeah.
And so 37% said I work remotely. Is that a surprise? I'm not too sure because obviously there's been a lot of people working remotely for the last 18 months, but people are starting to go back into the office. So we wanted to see how many people are still working remotely versus how many people still have that long commute. I was surprised to see the commute of 40 minutes to an hour at 27%. And
Yeah.
actually, I had a lot of comments. As you can see there, I had 119 comments. I'm going to put this in the comments as well. So you guys can go and check this out because I was surprised. There was a ton of people that came back and said like their commute is like 2 hours each way or like an hour and a half each way. And I was like, wow, or it
Yeah.
used to be, or it still is. And it's just surprising how much time people are spending on the road. So what did you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, I have trouble answering these now because I'm flexible, so I can go into the office and my commute is about 15 to 30 minutes, but then I also work remotely. So there wasn't quite a hybrid option, but I want part of why I live where I live and work where I work is I don't want to be in the car more than 30 minutes or be
Yeah,
on
I know that.
public. And like if I had to take public transit from where I am, it's all like the reason I don't take public transit is because it's an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Like
Well, and
just
Sean
the way
said,
the bus routes are, right? Like
so Sean was surprised at the long commute as well. I was shocked, honestly. I've just posted the link
yeah,
to this post so that you guys can go and
yeah.
see it. But I was shocked at some of the people coming back.
I know why people do it. Like I've had relatives who've like lived in an hour away and done the drive and it's like it's part of their work experience, but I just with the pandemic, I'm like that would be if that was my commute, that'd be the first thing I'd be questioning. But so many people can't live where they work, and like some areas it's like that's not really where you want to live, or most of your family is on the other side. So maybe this is the only thing
Hmm.
you're driving out for.
Yeah.
I tried to live in an area that was quite far away from my family and a little bit far from my work, and I really struggled because I just felt like I was in the car all the time. And like all of my appointments were in another area of the city, all my friends, all my it was like I'm just constantly not like driving. And I
I
didn't
mean,
love it, but I mean, I do the podcast thing, but
it's
still,
good for podcasts.
that's
So I'm
yeah.
kind of glad to hear that some people have a long commute because hopefully they're listening to Let's
There's to
Talk
say
Supply
let's talk
Chain.
supply chain, their
And that's
whole hour and a half drive.
well, and that's a really good segue because I forgot to mention at the top of this episode that if you want to get our
Oh
Let's
yeah,
Talk Supply Chain mug, like Imtiaz, who's in the comments today, has
yeah,
received one, just make sure that you are engaging and commenting with all the Let's Talk Supply Chain posts throughout the month.
yeah.
And we are going to be giving that away. Now, last month, so we have to actually tell the winner of last month, and it's Seaham Lewis out of Pennsylvania, and she should be getting her mug this week, which I'm super excited about. So thank you to her for all the engagement that she did with Let's Talk Supply Chain in the month of September, and that could be you. So make sure you engage with us, and we'll be announcing the winner at the end of that month, this month as well. All right, so the
Okay, one more
next,
thing, because
oh
Peter
yeah,
Peter mentioned a commute that was 37 kilometers each way, but he's in the airline. And I had a friend who was considering moving to Montreal, but her job was in Toronto, but she worked for like, I don't know, one of the airlines here. And she's just like, oh no, well, I'd come in on the morning commute. And then because she was a gate attendant or like a check-in attendant, she's like, oh, well, I just fly from Montreal into Toronto and work at Pearson, and then I just fly back on one of the flights at the end of the day. So I'm curious if that's part of Peter's tale, because that's a cool commute. That I would do.
that I would do.
I would do that
That is
commute.
a cool commute. I love it. I love it. All right. So on Sundays, I do a leadership post talking about just different things to motivate us, to inspire us. And this Sunday, I did one around keep going, keep growing. Now, a lot of people came back and said that they needed to hear that on Sunday. And I was like, I think I needed to hear that more than anybody.
Yeah.
Because I am just going to be very authentic and
Yeah.
honest right now. The
Yeah.
last couple of weeks have been a bit of a struggle. I'm not going to lie. I just said to Audrey this morning, I'm like, is it a full moon? Because I'm not entirely sure what's going on right now. What did you think when you saw this, Audrey?
Oh my gosh. I mean, you and I've talked about it. Like last week somehow was such a struggle. Like it's just, and you can get bogged down. And I think, maybe with some of the work from home and some of the sort of the ongoing pandemic situation, we're still quite isolated. And I was lucky, like you reached out, I reached out. Like I think as long as we're kind of connecting, then it's like it helps you motivate yourself to kind of keep going or regroup or to figure out. Sometimes people have perspective where it's like, why are you spending time on that? Even checking in with my boss and having, what are the priorities? And she's like, don't spend time like this thing, just don't spend time on it. Just drop it, and having somebody to help you kind of edit, whether it's kind of your personal life activities or whether it's your professional stuff. But yeah, seeing that, sometimes seeing those cheery kind of imagery, it does, make an
I
impact.
think it helps me more than it helps anything else.
It's true that when you're sharing, it's like you're sharing, it's not it helps other people, but
Mhm.
it's definitely makes you feel better, and it's an action that you can take.
So I just want to point out this comment right here, which I thought was really, really cool. And I'm so glad that she shared it with
It's
us.
mine,
Keep
yeah.
learning, keep growing, keep exploring. It's what makes you human. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of times when we are growing, we're going through growing pains, we've got times of unmotivation,
Yeah.
times where we're like, what am I doing with my life? And we're questioning different things. That really is just a great reminder about how important it is to ride the wave because it is what it means to be human, right? It's a journey, it's not a destination.
Yeah.
And how we get through that and how we walk through that and who we have for support and who we lean on and who we talk to and how we talk about things is really just about the human experience. And I think sometimes we get caught up in it. I know I do.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm like, what is happening right now? And then just to take a moment and be like, wait a second, this is kind of part of the human experience. Okay, take
Yeah.
a deep breath and let's move on.
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true.
I know. I know. All right. Let's get to our sorry, I was reading some of the comments.
Yeah, there's a
Because
lot going
somebody is
on.
talking about Hyperloop and I was like, where did we go from
Paula.
keep going, keep growing to Hyperloop.
It's part of the
Oh,
commute
here we go.
conversation.
Oh, Sean says, bet the Boring Company and Hyperloop and others will help with these commutes soon. Ooh, I like that. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think Hyperloop, those trains are supposed to go really, really fast.
Yeah.
I don't know. It might be a little scary.
No, we're all fine with the 10-minute, like, wind-blown hair commute. We're fine. It's fine.
Long hair commute. All
No,
right. All
I
right.
think we're
Let's
in
go.
close, but you get
And
my
MTS says, I saw that keep going message on
Aw.
Monday morning kept me going. Oh, I am so
Aw.
glad to hear that because, okay, but then it's not just helping me,
Yeah.
apparently. All right, let's do this. So, the first supply chain topic, which
Ugh.
I thought was, I saw this article and I was like, where are we going with this?
Yeah.
Right. And I think you guys are probably wondering the same thing. But they're talking about Amazon warehouses and how Bezosism is powering their warehouses. And this is a management style. And this is the management style that they are attributing to the free 2-day shipping and making that possible through the warehouse. However, there are a lot of things to this Bezosism that we might not be aware of that I think we do need to be aware of because of the implications to the workers and the mental health.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that this article talks about is how there's trackers and warning signals that are given to warehouse workers. So, it's tracking the amount of work that they're doing
Yes.
and then giving them a warning signal. I don't know if it's like a buzz, like, is it just, are they talking?
Your text.
I have no idea, but they're given warning signals to say, hey, you're not working fast enough. You need to pick up the pace. And so, what the workers are saying is that this is increasing competition and they're working faster, but it's at the expense of safety. And so, we're talking about AI, we're talking about machine learning, we're talking about how humans and AI machine learning can work together. And I think this is one of the this is one example of how it's being used. And I think we need to be very, very careful on how it's being used and what it means to the actual people doing the actual work. One of the stats that they said is 5.6 injuries per 100 workers. So, what did you think about this? I mean, obviously, warehousing is a huge part of supply chain, and obviously, the two-day free shipping is affecting everybody from small business to big business because everybody is talking about the Amazon effect, and so it's really, really affecting a large portion of our industry.
Yeah, and I certainly think that, like with any sort of seemingly successful enterprise, that people want to copy or emulate or follow that style. And what we have here at Amazon is like some sort of electronic prod when you're not keeping pace with what they've determined the average level of productivity in the warehouse is going to be. So that's an interesting like the first thing that comes to mind is kind of back to like slavery and being whipped when you weren't keeping up. So to me, it has a lot of negative connotations.
Yeah.
Because what's the nuance? What happens if you have a complicated order? Like I know they try to work very hard to make sure things are streamlined, but what if an employee's working on a larger order, a different order, you're out of stock order, they're not finding the materials that they need. So they're sort of getting dinged or punished. And they seem to have regular touch bases with their managers. I just wonder, is that the way you want to motivate your employees? Right? You're motivating them by, I mean, it's motivational because you're going to walk faster, I guess. But, is that a lot of companies sort of choose to build on their company values or their customer service, kind of inspiration. And so it seems like an odd way to motivate your employees. And the whole health and safety thing, like how can you, I don't know, as a manager, like I couldn't watch those kinds of levels of health and safety. Like why wouldn't that be a priority for your workers? So I do think it's from a productivity standpoint and from a technology standpoint, is that a way to move forward? Sure. Is it really interesting? Are there lots of different applications? Yes. But I think the downside is pretty high, and that indicates some sort of cultural issue that you're not getting on board with your employees, or they don't feel comfortable telling you about health and safety issues. So it just, to me, it's just such a red flag for that kind of culture or HR gap that,
Such a red
that kind of eliminates all of the kind of cool part of the like the AI technology and the sensors.
Well, and it kind of makes you wonder, right? We talk about sustainability, we talk about products coming in the right sized box
Oh my
for
gosh.
that particular reason.
Scudder
And
says.
now I know, and now we know what's happening behind the scenes. And no wonder we're getting, a small pack of batteries in a large box
Yeah.
if that's the incentive is that they need to work faster to get the
Yeah.
product out the door.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things that this article does implore people is to think about that on your next delivery.
Yeah.
When you're getting that product within 1 or 2 days, what is happening behind the scenes and what is happening to make sure that you can get that on your doorstep? So, just something that I wanted to bring to the community and talk a little bit more about because we've all heard a little bit about what happens at Amazon. This one uncovers a little bit more
Yeah.
and, puts it into perspective as to what we're going or what people in our community are going through when we get something on our doorstep.
Well, and they've initiated this contract where it's like they kind of prompted the, you can get this the next day, you can get this in this short timeline. But there's not, I don't know how much feedback they're getting where what's my trade-off? So as a consumer, all I know is I get it next day. If I'm in New York or Toronto, I get it same day.
Yeah.
But I'm not getting the trade-off of, but that's not environmentally sustainable on the packaging piece because they're just grabbing whatever the box they have. Or
So
two, it's not sustainable on the labor piece and their workers aren't exactly being treated well. So if I knew that piece, my decision of, okay, if I gave you 3 days, would those factors improve? But there's no conversation or sort of way to offer that feedback or do that comparison. And so it's just this push out of like, you can get it same day. And you're like, oh, sounds great. But is it great?
yeah,
So,
exactly. So many amazing comments. All right.
oh, hot
Let's
topic.
Let's get in. I know it really is a
It
hot
is.
topic. We should probably talk about it again. So let's talk about, everybody is talking about the congestion that is happening in LA and Long Beach.
Yes.
There are multiple vessels that are in the bay
Yeah.
waiting to dock, which means obviously there's delays all across the board.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I heard about the oil spill over the weekend. I don't know if that has anything to do with it either, because I did hear that an anchor had potentially created that oil spill when they went to anchor outside in the bay. So obviously causing all sorts of issues. But what I wanted to bring to your attention is Long Beach is now offering drivers traffic alerts via text to
Yeah.
fight congestion. So not only do we have congestion out in the water, we obviously have congestion out on the roads because not knowing when you can get the container, going to try to pick up a container, lines and lines and lines and lines of trucks. And to put that into perspective, so Long Beach, their traffic has gone up 21.6% from 2019, just in traffic alone. So obviously everything is increasing. Demurrage and detention are huge topics right now because of all this congestion. But what I really want to bring to your attention in this particular article is that drivers used to be able to do 6 to 7 jobs a day. So
Yeah.
the drayage community and the drayage part of the community is something that's very attractive to drivers because they can be home for dinner.
Yeah.
Now, with all of this congestion, that's changing that. And they're now only doing 3 moves per day out of that 6 to 7. So it's actually cut it down by 50%. And they get paid by move
I
or they get
move.
paid by mile. So
Yeah.
this is really affecting a lot of workers in the drayage space. So what do you think? I think that it's great that they're coming out with some technology to really help the drivers, and hopefully we
Yeah.
can see them get back up to that 6 to 7 jobs a day. But at the same time, there's so many different things that are happening just in this one spot in supply chain and in the globe.
It's interesting because this has been an ongoing issue at LA Long Beach areas, that the truckers, the turn time, the wait time, the efficiency of getting people in and out and matching them with their stuff has been an issue, and the pandemic has really just exacerbated that issue. So this is a welcome sort of addition to the tools that they might have. But yeah, I think a key point is they get paid by turn. And if they're only doing 3 turns down from 7, like why would you want to get into that, right? And if you're just sitting in a truck all day, idling, that's not environmentally sustainable.
No.
So there's a whole host of issues. But yeah, using technology to interact and make the driver experience better. At this point, it's inevitable because we're losing drivers. We're losing companies are just like, there's no money in it. Like, which not everything's about money, but like you want to have some sort of lifestyle. And yeah, that the congestion just keeps building, right? Like it's just, we peaked 2 weeks ago at 71 vessels, but who's to say in the lead up to Chinese New Year, which is coming, or Lunar New Year, which is coming on February 1st, so you're going to see that lead up again, November, December, January. What's to say it's not 100 vessels? So any tool I think is going to help. When they get scanners and so that they can send me their PODs in a timely manner, that would also be appreciated.
Are PODs still a problem? I mean,
I'm about to start charging people. I'm about to start, and it's everyone. It's not just like, if it was just one, I'd be like, that's it. We can't use you for this specific, but it's like, it's everyone. So I had to type up on letterhead, like guys.
Well, and so one of the questions that I have from this particular article is that it talks about a text message system for road conditions, but it doesn't actually talk about, like, do they get a text message when the container is ready for them to pick up? Like, that to me would kind of be taking it to the next level if it's not included, but they didn't say whether it was included or not. So I kind of question, if we're just focusing on road conditions, we need to up it a notch and talk about when containers are ready as well.
Yeah.
All right. I already got the 5-minute warning and we're down to 4 minutes now, and we've got to talk about fast fashion. All right, let's talk about this. So I picked up this article because there's some really interesting tidbits in here. And obviously fast fashion is something that is affecting everybody. It's affecting supply chains because I think some of what we're buying, obviously online, is clothes and shoes. And obviously that's a big part of what we're moving within our supply chain. And obviously with our focus on sustainability, Audrey's background in fashion as well, I thought this was a really good article for you and I to talk about. Yeah. What I was really surprised at was that clothes end up in Ghana, which I had no idea. And 15 million items. Can I just say that number again? 15 million items of clothing goes to Ghana a week. And 40% of that goes into landfills.
Yeah.
So I think, what they're saying is that we're wearing clothes 7 times before disposal, which is I think way less than obviously we used to. And obviously it's poor quality. And so it's difficult to reuse. It's difficult to recycle. It's difficult and so it's obviously very damaging to the environment. Yeah. So what do you think about this? And what are the answers to fast fashion?
I mean, I wore 1 pair of sweatpants 7 times a week during the pandemic. So I don't know. You maybe.
Okay. I like that for my husband too. Do you have any others? No.
I think part of the problem is we've had this perspective in the West that it's charitable to send clothes overseas, and so we don't feel as bad. And so I've been reading this book about email, and it talks about friction. Right. And so the modern convenience of you can just put it in this box in your neighborhood and it goes away. There's no friction there. Right. So it's very easy to I just don't want this anymore. Whereas when you stop and start thinking about where this is going and who's going to be using it and how it goes in the supply chain, that sort of adds up oh, maybe I can use it one more time, or maybe I can try to find someone who wants it, or but it's the consumption versus the reuse, right? So even with, in Toronto, there's just a crop up of secondhand clothing stores, and a lot of the clothes are in really nice shape. So it's really a mentality thing, and it's the creating some friction into getting those clothes because they're ridiculously cheap, and it has a cost too. So it's not just the end cost, but the beginning cost where you're using exploited labor who aren't getting paid appropriately, living in terrible conditions. So as soon as you start bringing these things to mind, when you go to pick up like a $6.99 t-shirt, you're like, oh, wait a second, I'm maybe not going to do this. I'm going to support local, or I'm going to find something that a company I know is actually, including some values.
So I have to give a shout out to some of the people in
right,
our
Rhonda, yes.
audience. So Rhonda says she's still wearing clothes from high school. I mean, that is amazing just
Yeah,
alone. And
yeah,
Chris is giving us some really good resources on a company
yes,
I think called Retraced
yeah,
to take a look at. And Ebenezer is from Ghana and is shocked by the numbers that we're
yeah,
talking about in this article. And
yeah,
so I think it's something that is untapped. I think it's
yeah,
something that we need to talk about more. I think when we think about the costs of
yeah,
containers moving product
yeah.
right now, thinking about 15 million items a week going to Ghana, like why are we doing this?
Why?
What is happening? How can
Yeah,
we change that?
yeah,
And I think some of the answers that I came up with was, really taking a look at what we're purchasing
yeah,
and maybe thinking about purchasing less. I know I haven't bought hardly any clothes or
yeah,
shoes during the pandemic.
yeah,
One of the answers in the article is circular fashion.
yeah,
And the other one is to consider spending more on better quality clothing that can be reused and recycled and worn more
more.
regularly
Yeah,
than the 7 times. So, just a couple of things that I want to leave you with to think about when we're thinking about our purchases. We've been talking a lot about this today. Well, the holidays are coming up. People are
yes.
looking to purchase items. So
Yes.
let's think about that when our Amazon delivery comes up or we're thinking about buying clothing for somebody. But I just want to say thank you so much to everybody for joining us today. We are like almost 2 minutes over. So if you stayed with us, I really appreciate that. Audrey, thank you so much for being our guest today.
Oh,
And
thanks for
next
having me.
week, we have Daniel Stanton, who is joining me on the show as a guest. And so I can't wait for that as well. You all have an amazing week, and we will see you back here